Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to Q&A Thursday. And this week's question is from Ellie from Sydney, and she's asking me about organic food. Is it healthier? Is it worth it? And I think this comes because I've been talking just mentioning organic food a couple of times in the last few podcasts. And so, yeah, I think I may have spoken about this before, but you know what? Let's get an update on it. So what is organic food? What is the definition, I guess? So we know with regard to organic food, what you generally tend to think about is it's not produced with pesticides, synthetic chemicals, artificial fertilizers. There's no genetically modified plants, and there's no radiation done of the plants. And generally speaking, if you're talking about animal farming with organic principles, then animal welfare is number one, and environmental sustainability is also really important for organic farmers. So that is awesome. And of course, why wouldn't you want to have food that's not covered in pesticides and artificial fertilizers and things like that? But is the food healthier? So there's been quite a few studies done over the years on organic food versus non-organic food to see if it actually has more nutrients in it. And the only thing I was able to find when I was looking at this is that organic food tends to have higher levels of vitamin C. So that's pretty cool. It's a really important antioxidant, really good for immunity, and also higher levels of some minerals such as phosphorus, magnesium, and iron. And I don't know if you're aware, there are so many people, particularly women, that are iron deficient. And a lot of this comes down to absorption, but if our foods aren't rich in iron, and we see this a lot with magnesium as well, as our soils are a little depleted of minerals and therefore they're not coming up through the food chain. And we know with magnesium, for example, that in Australia, between a third and a half of people are actually magnesium deficient. In the US, it's something like over 63%. It's like a really specific number of Americans are magnesium deficient. And it's because it's not, two reasons actually. It's not coming up through the food chain because our soils are deficient, but also our absorption is not so great for many people because, well, mainly because of stress is a big one that prevents us from absorbing our food, but also just gut health. Generally, a lot of people are struggling with gut health and bloating, diarrhea, constipation, pain, IBS, all of the things. So therefore, the absorption will not be ideal. So in terms of the actual nutritional content of organic food, as much as I'd love to say there's an absolute big benefit to it, I think there is a small benefit in terms of the nutrition content, but I don't know that it's anything to write home about. But certainly from an ethical point of view, when you're looking at the humane treatment of animals, and I have actually, in a previous existence when I was still nursing, I went from hospital nursing to occupational health nursing at a chicken plant. And yeah, it's not nice. It's not nice how those animals are treated. So definitely if, you have the budget to have organic meat, I would highly recommend that just from the animal welfare aspect of it, but also because they're not getting hormones, antibiotics, things like that in their food, injected into them, etc. So that is, I think, a good thing because, if it's in their tissues and you're eating it, then it's going into your body. So that is obviously not ideal. If you have a passion for the environment, as many of us do these days, and many of us are experiencing the impacts of, environmental damage and extremes of weather and things like that. But definitely organic food promotes a healthier and more sustainable use of our natural resources. We know that modern conventional farming methods use a lot of chemicals. They plant only one crop multiple times rather than rotating. And this is what leads to this decline in soil fertility and a decrease in the nutritious value of some of our foods, and also contributes to things like blue-green algae in our waterways. So we know that organic farmers do have a mindset that's around environmental protection and sustainability, and they're more likely to rotate their crops, to use their resources mindfully. And also because a lot of what they're doing is small batch, they have the ability to do that. It is a little more difficult when you're looking at these extreme large batch operations that, you kind of do need to be using a lot of these techniques, I guess, that aren't particularly environmentally sustainable. I guess the thing is with organic foods is that they are really expensive, and it is because there's a lot of handling of the foods that in bigger farms are automated. So there's that small batch sort of aspect where you're getting a higher quality product, and it does take more time. And obviously, if you're not using pesticides, it does mean that the crops can easily be damaged. So you kind of are having to pay for that aspect of it. But, I've got to admit, I have shopped over the years at organic markets and at supermarkets and fruit and veg shops, and the difference in the organic food I find, particularly when you're buying it at farmers markets, and, I've literally gone to buy lettuce at a farmer's market, and I remember the farmer saying to me, this was in the soil this morning. And he's just like, whoa. And the taste, you can taste the vitality. You can taste the freshness, the nutrients going into your body from that fresh food. And if you grow your own food, you will have experienced this. If you're tasting your own tomatoes, things like that, they definitely have better flavor. They feel like they're really pushing nutrients into your body. And that could be because of the antioxidants, because the longer the food is off the tree or out of the ground, the antioxidants that are in these fruits and veggies in particular do decline over time. And I remember growing up, my uncle had an apple orchard. And I remember going into the cool room and all these just like mountains and mountains of apples, which is incredible. But yeah, they used to sit there for like 9 months in storage. So that's a long time for fresh food to just be sitting around. And even though it's refrigerated, those antioxidants are very fragile and they will easily kind of deteriorate. So I definitely think there is value in going for organic food wherever you can, but obviously there is a price consideration. So what you can do to help with, I guess, prioritizing which foods should be organic and which foods not so much is by going to the Environmental Working Group website, or you can just Google the Dirty Dozen, EWG, and you can get a list of the current year Dirty Dozen. So they are the foods that are deemed highest in pesticides for that year, because it changes from year to year. And you can also then get the Clean 15, which is the foods that are considered to be safest to buy non-organic. So they have not had potentially the masses of pesticides, or another thing with some of these foods is just the nooks and crannies, right? The nooks and crannies that pesticides can linger in, that it's difficult to wash and get those pesticides off. So, for example, something like strawberries, it goes number one, or it's definitely in the dirty dozen very, very regularly. And I'm just looking at the 2023 Shopper's Guide now, and strawberries are number one on the dirty dozen. So, absolutely, either really wash your strawberries very, very well, or if you can get organic. I mean, my gosh, if you've eaten organic strawberries, they are amazing in comparison to what you'll find at the supermarket. And so, yeah, that is a good guide. If you're concerned about these things, then go ewg.org or just Google Dirty Dozen EWG and you'll get the Dirty Dozen, you'll get the Clean 15. They make it really easy. You can just download it for free. That it's so cool to see what you perhaps can prioritize in terms of your organic produce. But I would definitely also in Australia be looking for certified organic produce, because there is no regulation around organic food in Australia. So if you are buying food that you know has been certified organic, then it is genuinely organic. But I've noticed even like things like beauty products, for example, people can name their product, I don't know, let's just say organic shampoo. That's the name of the brand. That shampoo does not need to be organic. Okay, so it can be very, very misleading. So make sure if you're really searching for organic products, whether it's products or produce, because remember what you're putting on your skin is actually really important too. And it's really, the skin is a big organ and it does absorb what you're putting on it, obviously, as we all see, because we all put creams and things on our skin. And, you don't want to be absorbing huge amounts of chemicals on a daily basis, because let's face it, we already get exposed to a lot that we don't have control over. So if you can control, then definitely go for that more natural, less chemical, ideally organic kind of products, and definitely what you're putting in your body. As I said, the other option is that you're actually washing your fruits and veggies, etc., really, really well to get the pesticides off. But yeah, I get kind of torn, because obviously, as a nutritionist, I would love to have organic food all of the time, but it is unbelievably expensive. So I guess you just have to choose what you're willing to eat that's organic and not organic, and yeah, go from there. I would definitely, if you have a lot of family history of certain conditions, particularly things like cancer and stuff like that, or if you've been brought up in a farming environment, if you've had a lot of exposure to chemicals, you may wish to really look at, well, what can I do to reduce my exposure? And if you have young kids as well, we know that the impact of these sorts of pesticides and chemicals, they can definitely be seen in children because they're obviously smaller. So yeah, really think about that Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 as a guide. It is an American list, but we know that American farm practices, there are a lot of similarities, and I guess it's the best that we've got. We don't have one for Australia, but I think the one from the EWG is definitely the one that tends to be given a fair bit of regard and respect. So, Ellie, I hope that has answered your question around organic food. As I said, there's not necessarily great evidence that it's nutritionally superior, but I think definitely it has, because it's fresher, more antioxidants. And even if, for example, you're not able to get organic food or to afford organic food all of the time, even going to farmers markets and getting it really fresh, I think is going to be an advantage anyway from that point of view, the antioxidants. And things like, vitamin C is antioxidant, that does deteriorate pretty quickly. So it is something to think about. So I hope that's been helpful. It's a bit of a different episode today, a different question, but I take on board all of the questions that I get sent in and try to select one which I think is a little interesting and is something, particularly if I get repeated questions about it, that I think people are interested in at the time. So please feel free to send in your questions at Susie Garden Wellness if you're on socials, or email me hello@susiegarden.com. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll be back next Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you can get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you like free stuff, and who doesn't, then head over to susiegarden.com and grab my 8 essential age-defying secrets every woman over 40 should know right now. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.